Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. I'm Will Schick, Director of Product Development for Atomic Mass Games. And as always, we've got more painting hobby excitement coming your way. Today, we are going to be painting up one Din Djarin for Star Wars Legion. He's going to be upcoming here in the fall, I believe, currently October, summer. She's making a face. I think I'm right. If I'm not, BK, one of our other fine friends from Atomic Mass in the chat might correct me. But he will be coming out later this year along with Grogu, who Dallas Kemp painted up last week at 1 p.m. Pacific on his Wednesday stream. So I thought today, because we did a Din Djarin for Mini Stravaganza, if you joined us for that back in July, that we would take a little bit of a different approach on our Din today and make kind of an evil-ish Imperial colored one. So we're going to be using a lot of dark black metals. We're going to use some really dark blues and some blacks. We're kind of just going to make this one a little more sinister. Maybe give them some red visor glow effects too. So with that, let's get this off of me on to the star of our show, which is Din, and just get cooking. So I'm going to start with Vallejo colored gunmetal. This is going to be the base that I'm going to use for all the Beskar armor. It's pretty much the exact same way that I would start if I was doing the standard colors for the armor. So if you go back and watch the Mini Stravaganza stream, I did a very traditional, classic Mandalorian end of season 1, early season 2 with the full shiny silver Beskar armor. I got a little bit of the blue undertones in there and stuff. So if you want to see how I approached kind of painting normal Din, you can go back, check that out on YouTube. It might still be on Twitch, though I doubt it, because that was a while ago. But we did cover a little bit of how I would approach doing that. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways to paint true metallics. You could also be crazy and go with the non-metallic metal approach. Not something I've practiced ever or really done. I am a pretty big fan of true metallic metals. It's what we use on all the studio miniatures and stuff, so we don't really do anything with non-metallics as far as the studio goes. Of course, if you do non-metallic metal, the results can just be phenomenal, super impressive and amazing. So either way, it's kind of just personal preference as to what you like to go with. But we typically stick with the true metallic metals for everything we do in the studio, and it's just kind of the way that I've been painting forever, so I always like sticking to it as well. Maybe someday I'll get, a wild hair and dive in and figure out how to start doing non-metallics. But there's a lot of things on my hobby bucket list before I get to that point that I haven't even begun to do. I still have a lot of airbrushing practice and skills to figure out. I would love to get more into oil paints. Haven't even touched that. Talked about it a lot. But the most work I've done with oil so far has just been the washes, and those have been incredibly helpful. But not exactly what I had thought when I picked up all of my oil paints. No, it's not a new weapon on his back. It's just an option. So I did attach the Amban sniper rifle to his back, which you can choose to put on or leave off. I think the last one that I painted, I hadn't put it on there. But obviously, if you want to represent it on the miniature and you're going to use the upgrade card, or you just kind of want the full Mandalorian look, the rifle is included in the expansion pack, so you can slap it on his back or not, as you so choose. So between that and then the two different Grogus that it comes with, Frog ED Grogu or Magic Hand Thing Grogu, there's a decent amount of customizable options for representing these miniatures on the tabletop. Normally for me, it's I like the rifle, but if I'm just looking to get something done fairly quickly and efficiently, leaving the rifle off can make it pretty easy. You can also leave it off, finish the paint job, then come back and glue the rifle back on if you don't want to work around it when you're doing the cloak and stuff. But then of course you're going to be spending time painting stuff that you're not going to see. So my advice typically is, if you're going to put it on there, just start with it on, and then that way you don't spend time making a piece of clothing beautiful that you'll never see. Nothing worse than that. Can you see the spear card? I don't have it on me. So not a wish that I can grant, I'm afraid. I would be shocked, though, if our fine marketing friends, BK, Summer, Ann, didn't have the card planned for a reveal on social media at some point. Summer just made a big sigh. I think it was a sigh. Was that exasperation?
What are you doing?
I don't know. What am I doing? I'm just painting. I mean, it'll either show up on social media or it'll show up when they buy the pack. So either way, they'll see it eventually. I know how you marketing people are, though. You love getting the glory, so you're definitely going to show it off at some point. Zero question. It's how you do. Do the non-metallic metal. Someday, maybe. Not today. It wouldn't be much of a stream. It would be a lot of me like watching videos and reading like paint theory on how to actually do non-metallic metal at this point, because I wouldn't even know really where to begin. Like I know the basics. We find a couple of gray colors for our steel and start placing highlights with our whites and our grays and our blacks. Then it would all fall apart because I wouldn't know where to put any of it. Okie dokie. This is probably good enough for right now. We can always go back and hit anything that's not. Alright, so maybe I'll do those little... I don't know if the little panels on his boots are supposed to be metal or not. They don't really show his feet a lot, but for our purposes, we'll say those get the metal treatment. Okay. Let that dry really quick. I'm going to go in with anthracite gray. And our goal here is going to be to take this and kind of turn it into a little bit of a wash. We're kind of just going to see if this reacts the way that I want it to over the cape. Oh, we got a lot of medium in there, but that's okay. I think this will be fine. So I just want to tint the cloak, which I did my Zenith Prime on, obviously. So the goal here is to just kind of get that anthracite gray as an undertone and tint the cloth, and then we'll go back through and we'll darken it up. And it'll give us this nice, like, blue-black kind of color to play with. We're just looking to tint the colors right now. So it's okay that, you know, obviously I thinned it down a bit to a wash consistency. I'm not looking for this to be super rich, super thick. I'm going to take those colors down. I'm going to go to our Riva Gray. Give it a good shake. We're going to use this for the pants and the undersuit. But the idea here is lots of blue grays. So really what I'm looking for is just a couple of colors that are going to work really well, but be in that more imperial kind of like dark color. So I grabbed colors that kind of evoked the color of the TIE fighters in X-Wing. Those nice, rich blue grays. That we kind of play with. Because I don't want, I don't want like Sith black for this guy. We very easily could have gone that route and just done, like Darth Vader style Sith kind of shiny black with some reds and stuff. But Din is still, he's still a free agent, as it were. He's taken bounties to help pay for the other Mandalorians and their needs and stuff, but he's not necessarily choosing to work for the Empire. He just happens, if he takes a job, once or twice that happens to be set up by the Empire, he's not going to ask too many questions at this point. He's still pretty ruthless. He just does things to get paid. This is before his new space son shows him the way. And so that's kind of like the feel that we want here. So I don't want to go like completely, dark side villainous with him, but I do want to get that more sinister, darker color scheme. Okay. Pretty happy with that. I think we will just really quick go back in and catch some of the metals. So like this little plate here we missed. Get this underside plate here. And then there was this weird little like panel that's attached to his pants, which I'm just going to assume is a Beskar plate. This little thigh pad. Again, in our world, it's going to be Beskar. I don't know if that's accurate to the costume or not. I don't have reference up right now because we're just doing our own thing today. So I didn't pull any reference. The miniature canvas is ours to do what we want. Okay, so we're going to see if this works. My goal here is to just take some of this Speed Paint Grim Black, put it over our steel, and ideally, if it works like the other colors, like the reds and stuff, we'll get a nice boiler, like cast iron black out of it. Very quickly and easily. So the great things about speed paints in general, we did this on the swoop bike riders that we painted a little while ago or did some techniques on. If you want to get those nice colored metallics, any kind of like heavy contrast style painting will really let you achieve that, because things like speed paints and stuff, they're obviously designed to stretch over the surface of the mini and then show what's underneath. So if you put a metallic kind of undercoat underneath them instead of like a white or a gray, as the speed paints do what they're supposed to do and stretch over the surface, that silver metallic is going to show through, and you're going to get an effect a lot like if you look at like, car paint, automotive body paint stuff, where you can see that metallic flake, but it's mostly covered by the color. You get the same idea here. So you don't need a speed paint or anything to do this. You can do it with ink glazes or even paint glazes. You can grab like a transparent paint. So some companies do offer hobby line transparent paints, which will work in fairly the same way. But whatever you use, you just want to make sure that it's going to heavily tint and cover the surface, glaze the surface, but still show that metallic flake through as it dries. And you can always go back over and deepen the effect by just adding another layer of the paint. You can bring back some of the metallic if you want more of it by going back through and doing like a dry brush. Or even edge highlighting. Might as well just do the boots here at the same time because we're going to make the boots black. So we can just save ourselves a step. Just be pretty heavy with that. So then hopefully as it dries on camera, you'll even be able to see. I know the cameras sometimes have difficulty picking up the metallic undertones on this kind of painting, but as our work here dries, you'll hopefully be able to see a difference between where we left the gray primer layer and the metallic layer. And that's one of the fun things about, speed paints, contrast paints in general, is that they offer a whole lot more potential than just quick and easy base coat, shade, highlight results. You can really utilize them for a lot of different purposes. See, asking you shall receive. People asking about the Spear upgrade card. Next week, I guess you'll see some more spoilerific previews for our Mandalorian here. So I'm also not going to do this speed paint coverage over the Amban rifle because I want that to look more like weapon metal. So I'll just use a normal like black wash over that and then highlight it back up. Whereas I want the Beskar steel itself to be really dark and like almost boiler black. So you can see how everything's kind of playing together right now with our blue tones that we have going on with the grays and everything. Whoops. And in trying to fix our mistake, we made it worse. That's okay. So it's a great learning moment there with speed paints is that you can't really go over them once you've applied them until they've completely dried. So I went over an area that I'd already painted because I kind of wanted to like futz with it. And of course that was a mistake because instead of actually futzing with it, I just wound up pulling all of the color that was already down and starting to dry up. And that's a bad look. It's a bad day. Okay, I want maybe some of this, maybe a little of this, maybe some of this. So I'm going to take a little bit of Inktense Blue. I'm going to take some Inktense Black. And then I'm going to take a little flat black. And I think that'll work. I think that'll be good enough. All right, so let's just mix this together into a quick wash. So, take some water, throw it in here. Our black, our blue, and a little bit of this paint. And I added the flat black paint just to give it a little bit more stick. So just doing the washes themselves, what would happen is you would wind up seeing, I just want a little bit of medium. So if you just do the inks won't necessarily grab as well over the surface. So you want to use either a medium, an artist medium to give it a bit more like stick. Alternatively, you can just use basic paint. So obviously like normal non-ink paint also has a medium in it because that's how the whole paint works. So you can very easily use normal paint as well. And that will make your glazes stretch and stick to the surface of your miniature much better. Just trying to use like ink and water, the only thing that'll really do super great for is if you want to get that ink, that wash into those details, because it'll run really well. But if you want to turn it into a glaze and have it kind of stretch over the entirety of the miniature, it's really important that you add that extra medium to it. Whether that's with like a glaze medium, an artist glaze medium, or a matte medium, some kind of like artist made medium that you add to it, or by using standard paint and mixing the inks into it, and using a little bit of water to like thin it out and stuff. Doesn't really matter which way you go, and there's benefits to either. Obviously, if you use the paint like I just did, you're going to wind up seeing that paint color really reflected in your washes, so it's going to change the nature of your ink color, which in this case is fine. But say you just really wanted to have that solid ink color, whether it was a violet ink or something, you didn't want to really mess with it, then using the glaze medium or the artist mediums is going to preserve that a lot better. So those are just some of the things that you want to consider as you're going through. Yeah, these little handy dandy little 6-well palettes are great. Super easy to find. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my done. I want this to be a little darker, so I'm going to add some more black to it. Because this is going to go in the cloak. I want the cloak to be a little bit less blue, a little bit more black than the current one. Ooh. Just way more blue. Grab the wrong color here. Let's grab a little bit more of this flat black. Mix that up. Mix that around. See how that's going. Seems pretty good. All right, let's just slop this on. Not worried too much about keeping things smooth or even right now, especially on the other side of the cloak. It's going to go crazy. We're just going to slop this on everywhere. And we'll go through and kind of pull up some of the pools and stuff so it doesn't get too grody. But start. So now I'll go back through and like kind of just find where it's really heavily pooling and pull that paint around a little bit. Make sure that we don't have anything that's too puddly. So I do want the shade and stuff, and a lot of that wetness will dry out as we go. Avoiding any massive pools will just make everything better. Palette shames. I'll never use a clean palette. Never! Dirty palettes for the win. Ah, sure. Pull up some Boss Chestnut. We'll use this for his belts and stuff. Maybe. Where'd my pokey thing go? Pokey! Use some brown just to give a little bit of warmth to this guy. You don't want everything to be cold. So, this Boss Chestnut. And we'll darken this, we'll deepen this back down with a nice umber style wash. So, don't worry, it's not going to be this bright to begin with. We're just going to start here. So we'll start bright and then we'll work our way back down into shadow and darkness. I'm going to do his gloves this way too, I think. If we wind up not liking them, we can always take them back. But I think the brown leather gloves will give us a nice point of visual interest as well. These, that, set around. Not going to be too particular about getting like the little disintegrator bullets. Best. Not to make too much of a mess here. Goal just to make sure to get that nice solid base coat around. Oh, missed that. Go back and fix that here. Get the strap. Chest. And then I'm going to do the stock of the ambient rifle in the same color. Just get some base coat down on it. I don't know if that part is like brown wood or if it's metal, but just to give us a little bit of visual breakup for most of the rifle, which is very, very silver. And because we're off book on this guy already, we'll just do what we want. So we'll do that. And I need to come back to this. Miss this portion of him. Kind of lock that in. Nope, and we missed this little side flap. So we'll lock that part in. There we go. All right, so one more coat of our brown, just to make sure it's nice and solidly covered. Now we'll get back in, doing stuff. Let's get this little leg pouch. Leggy pouch. We could do, I want to get really crazy, I guess. Make the strap to the leg pouch a different color. No, this is going a bit above and beyond what we really needed to do. We could have just left that strap like completely black and I think it would have looked fine, but we got the time, so why not? Why not? Go and just color it up brown. And we'll do the same thing over here, where he's got more bullets, more disintegrator cartridges. You can never have too many disintegrator shots. Okay. Great. So, while that dries, there's nothing left in there. So it's fine. We'll just use more of this. Go back really quick to our base metallic and get the blaster pistol covered. Great. And then we can go in and do some simple touch-ups on the sniper rifle as well. So we knew we were going to slop a little bit on this. That's okay. Because correcting those mistakes before we go back in with our black wash and stuff is much, much easier. We've already got our base coat down. Build up that brown rifle. Go. Great. Great, 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 great. Let's find some brown speed paint. That'll work. Okay. Let's see. All right, I think pretty good. Let's just go in, start tinting down this brown. Maybe we'll even hit it with some black as well, just to really deepen it. Truth of the matter is we probably could have just used the same wash we used on the cloak over the whole thing, and that would have really tied things together as well. So there was definitely that option. Because blue will shade just about anything super well. The nice thing is because all of our other colors are really dark and kind of black, we can be pretty loosey-goosey with how we apply this brown wash, and it's just going to add a little bit of like visual excitement and interest here. Pretty simple. Yeah, the paints that are currently offered for Legion are from Army Painter. They were done well before we at Atomic Mass stepped in and kind of combined forces on the miniatures end of things. So it's possible. I know that we talk a lot internally about where to go next and what we would add, and obviously with so many painters in the office, we have strong opinions when it comes to the tools of our hobby. And I think if we had the opportunity, it'd be really awesome to work with a great paint manufacturer to offer some more custom tailored paints, especially for Star Wars. There's so many unique colors. I know if you were watching last week, then you got to hear Dallas's whole probably class on Grogu flesh and getting the appropriate skin tone for Grogu kind of like knocked out and figured out. So who knows what the future holds. We're definitely open, always and forever. Okay, let's see. So looking pretty good there. Let's see if I can find my black wash. Maybe impossible. We might have to make something up. Maybe we'll get lucky. Who knows? That's ink. That's just black. That's an ink. All right, fair enough, fair enough. Well, when we lack a pre-mixed wash, we'll just make our own. So, kudos. We'll try this stuff and see what happens. All right. So, see, that's pretty good. It's got some green, blue in it. Those browns mix around with it. Yeah. So this is actually just the Instacolor Gollum Gray that I pulled out because I just had it sitting around. When it comes to the Instacolors, I don't love their coverage as like a contrasty style of paint. I find that they're a little too thin, but we're going to make that work for us here because they kind of make great washes. They're a little bit on that side of like being more wash than they are high contrast paint. So, but I think as far as that went, it worked out really nice. So that worked pretty good. Great. Make sure it's filling all those cracks and crevices so our details kind of popping out here. Looking good. Look at our little Din. He's so dark and sinister-y. He's going through his kind of pseudo goth phase, I guess. Those of you with preteens, you know what I'm talking about. The only color clothes they're willing to buy is black. Everything is one size too big. Okay, let's see. Can we spot any scale metallics? The answer is a definitive no. So we'll just continue on with what we got, which is fine. Okay, so my goal here is to just kind of go through and really quickly pick out some spots where we would get those nice little shots of super bright highlight, and by using these sparingly, it will help make the rest of the armor just look A, more metallic, and B, even darker, because you're going to have that really stark contrast. Between the bright and the dark. So I'm mostly aiming for like around the edges where light would catch. Which artistically and scientifically is not exactly how metallics work, but it works great for miniatures painting. There's a little whistling bird gauntlet. Right there, a little bit of that there. Okay, on the shoulder pad here. This, and if I wanted to be really, really particular about this step, I'd probably start blending it out as well. So, using my secondary brush as a 2-brush blender. But, shocker of all shockers, I'm not that particular today. We're just having some fun working on this little Djarin. The intent of getting them to a point to where we want to put them on the table, but not necessarily trying to win any painting competitions or anything here. That visor a little brighter, actually make him look even more Mandalorian. There. All right, so do that. And we'll just really quickly do a dry brush over the ambient. Just pick out extra details. Nice metallic finish. There's that. There's that. We have like so much time left. Oh, we get to go in and like really do some particulars now. So let's grab not that, not that. I guess that would work. Keep stealing all of our metallics. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Let's grab some Viking gold. Boop, 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 boop. Let's see. There's some amazing ideas within Star Wars Not Seen Yet, like train heists from Solo. I think we'll see more scenarios in Legion of their smaller games. I don't know if you're going to see something that small. Absolutely, I think you're going to see scenarios that kind of replicate, you know, a train heist, for instance. But overall, Legion is really built on the core foundations of being a, you know, a large-scale battle game. So from just a core philosophy of the rules and everything, it's not designed super well for that kind of smaller scale hero on hero kind of action, right? Like even the big characters like Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, you know, Mando himself that we're working on today, they're all balanced and created in a way that is evocative and fits within the idea that the game itself is about, you know, units of troopers fighting each other and being led on a larger scale battlefield. The Legion itself is not trying to replicate that kind of Solo-esque, zoomed in, crack team of characters running in to do stuff, right? It's very much about the larger strategic and tactical actions of these troops. And then the characters are obviously powerful individuals. They can have a great impact on the game, but they're not the core focus of the game. They're part of it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we always try to keep in mind when we're looking at this stuff and how we approach Legion. Is you want to make sure that you're building things in relation to how the game is designed, what it's meant to be. So you're meeting those expectations and stuff. And ooh, we got sloppy there. So sloppy. Oh no. Use the finger. Got so sloppy, it's time to use the finger. And, you know, yeah, there's definitely the skirmish format, which you could do the train house on, but even that's not, you know, it's still a pretty big scale kind of engagement than Solo and Beckett and the rest of his like small crew going in and trying to fight off a few range troopers on a train, right? And it's really nice that we have a couple of different game size options and stuff to explore things like that. So you can see things like dynamic exit that's coming up, which is a bit more of a focused narrative experience, but still within the idea of like a larger Legion battle, done at the skirmish level and stuff. And Imperial Assault, I think that, you know, that's a great kind of example of what, you know, the themes and the tones of the game and what they're trying to do are very different. So you can certainly cross-pollinate a little bit, but just like Imperial Assault was never going to be able to replicate what Legion does. Legion's never quite going to be able to replicate what Imperial Assault did or does. So there's a lot of that, you know. It's how do we create experiences like the Dianoga scenario, you know, a natural resources. We all have fond memories of the trash compactor scene and the horrors of the Dianoga coming in and trying to eat Luke Skywalker and stuff. That scene though, that's not a Legion game, right? So how do you take those themes and that tone and put it into a context that makes for the best or most compelling Legion experience it can be? And those are the kinds of things that, you know, we're constantly kind of playing against and thinking about. And sometimes you really want to do something, but it doesn't quite fit the theme. And sometimes you come up with a great idea that totally fits the theme and turns kind of common game expectations on their head and makes for a really compelling experience. And those are the reasons you come to work and really push yourself, is to find those opportunities and those options. I think that's one of the enjoyable things about it, right? Like, yes, as a game designer or developer, you can technically do anything you want, but if you keep breaking the expectations or the boundaries of your own system and game, you're not going to last very long, right? It's just that's an untenable place to be, and you don't want to be there if you're being like really honest with yourself. I think that there's absolutely opportunities in Mandalorian to see stuff. You know, obviously a big one would be when Din escapes with the child from all the bounty hunters that Grief brings along after he has his change of heart and stuff and goes back. And then he gets cornered and the rest of the Mandalorians from the Culver come in and save his bacon. Like that's definitely a Legion-esque scenario. in the making that you just have to like design certain things for, and then players could explore in various ways. And who knows what else is in store for us, right? Like, these stories, these moments only get bigger. Obi-Wan definitely had a couple of moments that could easily be explored within Allegiance and Arrow 2. So I think there's a lot of great places that we can go and kind of live out our fantasies within the world. And the stories that we've seen while also telling our own, which is really the magic of miniatures games like Legion and X-Wing and all those, Armada. You get to engage with the world and the galaxy, but do so in a way that is also your own story and your own narrative. So you kind of get to control things better, you know. I always call a miniature, a lot of times I'll just explain miniature painting as coloring, a three-dimensional coloring book for adults. And playing the game is kind of similar. It's a choose-your-own-adventure story that uses miniatures and random outcomes. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, let's see. All right, so there's our Mandalorian. He's looking perfectly sinister and dark right now. I'm really digging how all these colors are coming together. The cloak looks really nice. I think our wash dried pretty well, and we've got some really nice natural highlights from the Zenith Prime, so we can just kind of call that good. We could go back in and kind of like clean up or add some scritches and maybe some little fabric effects and stuff, you know, here and there just to give a bit more life into that cloth. But for the moment, I'm pretty happy with that. We've only got a few minutes left. So what else do we want to do here? Let's come in with some chainmail silver. And I just want to do a couple little spot highlights on a couple of places here. Just like hit the helmet a little bit. Again, just looking for those really simple places to make that glint. This is where the light is primarily reflecting from. And just another way to really make that true metallic feel pop and feel really good. This can be as simple as little lines. Maybe take that crest on his shoulder and pop that out a little bit. Even if that wouldn't naturally be where the light would catch, we just want that detail to be really front and center and visible when you're looking at the miniature to help tell the story, sell the character. A little bit too thick down there. I'm just kind of like blend that back out. There we go. Here, just like that. That. Really quick little highlights on the sniper rifle. That as well. Okay. And the last thing I want to do is just go in with a bit of our black. I'm just going to keep that visor nice and Mandalorian black, so slap that in. Use my finger to just clean up my mess where I overspell. All right. And there we go. So there is our completed Imperial Agent Din Djarin, all clothed in his best dark duds for, you know, bad cowboy drawing and dealing. But not too shabby for an hour of work. Let's get him done. He'll look right at place on any Imperial force as one of their sinister bounty hunters. So with that, thank you so much for joining me today. Be sure to tune back in tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific. You're going to see Dallas Kemp. He's going to be painting up some Sentinels from Marvel Crisis Protocol. Those are big ones in many, many ways, but mostly physically. So that will be one jam-packed hour of awesomeness. And of course, you can tune back in next Tuesday. I'll be back at 1 p.m. Pacific with more hobby and painting action. Till next time, be good to each other, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye. I'm a Din Djarin, and I'm wearing dark duds, dark dealings, dark duds. Din Djarin, so many D's.